All right, good afternoon and welcome to today's Back to Basics webinar, which is on all things health when it comes to PowerSchool. Let me start out with saying my normal disclaimer that this is a sandbox server full of fake students and fake information, and no real students or information is being shared in this video, and any likeness to any real person is purely coincidental. So what we are going to do today is literally go top to bottom all health settings and health processes inside of PowerSchool SIS. Now, I have the chat open, so feel free as we are going through the different tutorials. If you have a question, feel free to throw it in the chat and I will try to answer those as we are going along. So first, let's start out with a little bit of health setup and health security. So when it comes to health security, in each security group that staff members are placed in system management, security, security groups, most typically there are going to be users who are in a security group that has probably been associated with nurses, those who are going to be the full edit access that are keeping all the records as far as health is configured. There can also be health security permissions assigned to individuals in other groups. So no matter which group you're in, every group setup, I'm just going to click on the one that I have configured here called nurse, has the same set of options for our users. There's an entire area called health and immunization. These have drop downs that give multiple options of access for any of these different components that you all see in those health pages at district office and on the student record. Now, these are really working with the individual student records when we're looking at these right here. Most of them are going to have a no access, a read only, meaning you can view, a read and modify, and some have a read, modify, and delete where you can delete records. Not all have the delete function. So the first thing that you must make sure is set up correctly is that the security groups that you have broken down within your district have the correct read, modify, or delete functionality for your users. Now, when it comes to the actual editing of these, I know most districts are just going to have their nurses or everybody who's actually performing the health duties being the one who can actually have those modify or what we call edit records. Most all other people that you want to be able to view any of the health records should just have read access. So the first thing you want to do is ensure that in your security groups, you have the correct permissions assigned in this health and immunization area for all of your individual health components inside of the SIS. Now, the second place that you will need to look at security is, of course, going to be our page permissions, and you can configure page permissions for all groups when it comes to health. So in order to be able to edit something on the page, you have to be able to see the page. And most of these are going to be at both district and school level. You'll see these health. So for example, this drop down here is showing me that for my health pages that are in this flyout here, these correspond to these right here. I could click to see which groups have no access to see anything in that page versus those who have edit access to those pages. So you would need to make sure that you have gone through your page security for both your main pages at district office and your student pages of health. So if I were to scroll down, I scroll down to the student pages. These are the different health pages that I see up under an individual student record. So again, with these, I would want to make sure that I look at each one of these and ensure that everyone has the proper page permissions to be able to access those flyout pages inside of SIS. So I know I've got a lot of nurses on this call. If you've ever been in PowerSchool and you go to a student record and you say, hey, I don't see office visits, it's not in my list, that means page permissions has never been turned on for you to be able to view that page. So you want to make sure that you see all the pages that you believe you should see. You're going to see them all in my tutorial here, so you can kind of compare what you have versus what I'm showing here to know if you need to have a conversation with your district about adjusting page permissions for your group or any other security groups that might need to be inside of there. So security groups and page permissions are two big places that you need to go as far as individual user access to all of our health pages. Now, one more page of security is going to be inside of reporting. Um, I won't say many, quite a few of us might use the system reports. So when I'm in data and reporting reports, we have a set of what are called system reports, and these are pre-built reports by PowerSchool for our end users to use. There is a laundry list of reports on this page, but what is included on this page is an entire repository of health reports. How many of you on the call, please feel free to enter in chat, actually use these system reports right here? I know we have built a lot of enterprise reports that a lot of people use, because what we found is that in some of these reports, they're very cookie cutter, because we can't add things to them. I know there's a lot of reports that people want to pull, and they're like, Stacy, can you add in comments? Can you add in other things to the reports? Some of them are perfect for you because they give you that kind of bare minimum, I need to use this. But if you ever need, let's say, a medication list and it to have other pieces of that medication file that you don't see in here, we can't go and adjust these reports to add more things to them. And so that's why we built out a lot of the enterprise reports. Now, if anybody's on the call and you're saying, well, Stacy, I don't see any of these reports right here, or maybe I see office visits, but I don't see screenings, I don't see general health. Let me show you where the controls are for you to see who has access to these reports and who does not. So in system management, again, under security, oh, not data, oh, system management, security, there is, where is my, okay, I just lost my system security settings. 1 second. Reports, system report security, go on the wrong place. This is the page that actually controls that entire list of system reports that you have up under data and reporting. So what you would want to make sure, again, here are all of my different security groups that I have configured. A green checkbox means that that security group has access to the reports. So we have the attendance suite of reports, we have the discipline reports, the grade book reports. What you want to do is scroll down and look at all of the different health reports. So starting right here with health, athletics, immunizations, which we're not going to see anything in any of these immunization reports because we do not use the internal immunization function of PowerSchool. All of your immunizations are kept inside of Imprint, so do not have any expectation of any immunization dashboard or immunization report to work inside of PowerSchool, because PowerSchool does not talk with Imprint. Imprint does not talk with PowerSchool. We just pass you through Imprint from PowerSchool. But you would want to make sure that your nurses have access to all of these other reports, the medication set of reports, the office visit. Notice that the only checkbox that I have on mine are for nurses. Now, you as a district might decide that other people need to be able to run these reports. Maybe the principal needs to be able to run these reports as well. If that's the case, then you'll just need to make sure whatever security group those users are in, that you check that to toggle it from the green check or the red. So I can just click to go back and forth and say, well, now the person that has this can also have office visit details. If it is checked green, but you do not want it to be checked green, you can click on and off as well. Now, what if you need the nurse to see all of the reports in the list? You can also click on a column or on a row and turn it on for everyone in that column or row. For example, if I want everybody in this category right here, student lookup, to be able to see all of the reports, I can click at the top and it turns everything green across the column. If you needed to do it in mass, double clicking it again turns off the access for everyone in that column. I can do the same thing for a row. If I said I need everybody to be able to see office visit stats, I could click it and it would turn the whole row green. I can click it again and it turns it off for everyone. So you just want to make sure that at some point in time, especially if there's been a lot of turnover in the nursing area and the tech area, that you go through and audit your security to make sure you understand who has access to the pages, who has access to the reports, and make sure that it has been granted appropriately according to your data governance policy within your district. So before we leave the topic of security, does anyone have any questions they want to put in chat concerning the security to these system reports that are again located under data and reporting, reports, and system reports, or to your security groups? And again, these will be conversations that you'll most likely have to have with your district PowerSchool administrator to sit down with them and have that audit of your health security pages. Okay, no questions are coming in. If at any time y'all have one, remember to put them in the chat. All right, so the next thing that we want to talk about now that we know that we have security is there are some setup pages at district office that you as a district want to make sure that you look at to ensure you have all functionality enabled inside of the CS for your actual setup. So let's talk about the management of the health product itself. So at district office, you can't see this from a school level, only at district office. Under district management, there is actually a health flyout here. Now, most people on this call might not have access to this. It might be that only your district admin has it, and you'll need to get with them again to go over these settings. Now, there's a lot in these settings that you will not have any access to, or there's no need for you to have access to. Certificates, code sets, templates, those are not things that you are going to be setting up because most of those are already pushed down from the state level. We push down all of your health plan templates. We push down all of the health code sets that drive all of those drop downs, all the medications, things such as that. But there are two things on this page that you do have to have some input with your district about to ensure that health is set up the correct way for you. The first one I want to look at is this health setup right here. So when I click into health setup, this is where you need to make the decision on what you see at your district. So the first one, display offices, visits, and screenings entered at other schools. If you check this box, this means that if a student moves from school A to school B in your district, the office visits and screenings will come with them so that the nurse at the new location can see them. Quite often I'll get an email from a user that says, "Hey Stacy, I just had a student that, they came from the middle school, went to the high school, and I can't see their office visits, and we should be able to see those." That means the district didn't check this box. So you'll want to make the decision on whether you want those to flow into the other school and be visible by the users at that transfer school. And again, it only works within your district. It's not going to be if I move from one district to another, you're turning it on. It's just for within your district at your schools. With remote enrolled students, Shelly, I will have to look and see about that. I want to say yes, it should. If I remember correctly, it should, but I'll double check and let you know on that one. Enable additional monitoring types. So around 2 years ago now, I think it was, is when PowerSchool gave us some additional monitorings beyond the diabetic monitoring that we used to be able to schedule inside of PowerSchool. We now have a catheter monitoring functionality and a tube feeding monitoring functionality. You'll want to make sure that those monitoring types are turned on just in case you ever get a student that does have one of those needs. I still see some districts who have never checked this box right here. And so they're like, "Hey, we do have students who have tube feedings and I would like to do a monitoring event on that." Well, you would need to check that box. And once you check that box, you'll need to check for both catheters and tube feedings to be enabled. These did not come enabled when they were first installed for everyone. It was by choice of the district to do the enabling to be able to have those additional monitoring types. So you'll want to check to see if you have those types turned on or not. You do want to make sure you have enable enhanced health system features because that's just some of the other things as we get into the different products, we'll show what some of those enhanced features are. And this one of the newest one is the enabled enhanced vision screening fields. These are some additional vision options that you can do in a screening, but you'll have to set them up first if you choose to use them. I'm going to go ahead and enable them so I can show them to you on the actual screening pages. When it comes to the other stuff, I don't know that we're really using many of these right here. So the biggest things that I want to make sure that everyone has checked is you make the decision, do you want those display office visits and screenings? please make sure you enable the additional monitoring types and the enhanced health system features, and decide if you want to use the enhanced vision screening fields. Now, because I checked that box, I need to submit this page so it can make that change for me. So that's the first page of health setup that you need to take a look at. The second page is again under district management and health. It's the actual screenings setup. Now, unlike medications and health plan templates that are pushed from the state level, these are not pushed from the state level. So you as a district have some say over what those drop down options are for each of your individual screenings. Now, I'll say this. One of the questions that I get a lot from districts is there a way to add additional screening types to the platform? Unfortunately, there's not. I've had a request for, can we add a lice screening? Can we add these other kind of screenings? And there's no configuration that we can do inside of this right here. I have passed some of those requests on to PowerSchool to see if one day we'll get those screenings added to it. But right now, these are the only screenings that we have. But you get to set up what you want the options to be inside of those screenings. So for example, when I go into hearing, now, this is just what I have set up inside of here. Yours could look slightly different from mine. It could look exactly like mine. Who knows? Because when we implemented PowerSchool, a lot of us shared some of my common setup that I had from back when I was in the district. Doesn't mean that you couldn't change it, because you absolutely have the purview to adjust these. But what it means is these are the drop downs that are showing when you're inside of each of your screenings. So when you've gone and produced a hearing screening on a student, when it comes to provider type, what all do you want to be in your drop down? You would just hit add to add any new one inside of there, and you can sort the order with these up and down arrows. You can also decide which one is a default value. So if you want something to go ahead and start out being that value as the norm, but it be changed only on an as needed basis, you can do that as well. So we see all the different values. Left ear test result. I just have a pass and a fail in mind. If you feel that there needs to be something more accurate than just pass or fail, you can absolutely add any other code inside of there. You would just need to decide what you want those codes to be. Test type, display values for screening outcome, and hearing waiver reason. If you don't use any of these portions of that screening, then you can absolutely leave it blank. Like, I don't have anything right here for hearing waiver reason, but if you think that there needs to be something in there, or you want a specific option, you can absolutely add that inside of here. And that's for all of these. Now, if I go to this screening, notice I've not set anything up. Doesn't mean that it can't be used. We've just never set anything up for it. So if you want to do this type of screening, you can absolutely put the display values that you want, the screening outcomes that you want, and any waiver reasons. This is for every one of these. So even in the oral health, I've never set mine up because we never did any oral health screenings. If you do oral health screenings, again, what would you like to have in your drop downs for those screenings when you perform them on the students? Scoliosis is one that I do believe pretty much everybody across the state has set up. So we see our display values, our X-ray film impressions. Notice I've just kind of got random stuff in here because I don't even know what a display value would be for an X-ray film. And this is why you as the nurse need to talk with your district PowerSchool person, because your tech person or your sysadmin, they're not going to know what these display values need to be because they don't work in the healthcare field. You all are the keepers of that knowledge and know what actually needs to be inside of here. So same thing, go through your display values and decide what all you need to have. Now, with the vision and color, that's one I do want to point out here to make sure that you go through and audit, because if you have turned on the advanced vision and color screening, you'll have some boxes that you will need to configure. I think pretty much everybody has the basic vision and color setup already configured. So we have our display values, we have our colorblind test for our results, our left eye test, our right eye test, screening outcomes, waivers, tests with corrections, both eye test results. But if I scroll down past all these, you'll notice there's a few more questions that have not been configured in my setup. These are new parts to that vision screening with the enhanced vision. So you'll decide, what do you want to see as the assessment type? What do you want to see as options for with or without corrective lenses? Right eye, left eye, near test, far test, both eyes, far test. So it just gives you some more testing features that you want to make the decision of, do they need to be pass fail values? Are there certain numerical values you expect to be in there? Y'all just decide what you want to see in those drop downs, because this is where you have the control on all of these screenings. So at some point, I would say take the time to sit down with your district admin, click on each one of these screening types and see if any of them has not been set up. And for the ones that have not been set up, decide what values you want to see in those drop down boxes. You might want to collaborate maybe with your neighbor nurses to see if anybody else has set up to see any ideas. If you don't know what needs to go in there, feel free to reach out to me, Dr. Marshall, any of us, and we'll see what kind of advice we can give on those. But I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about the healthcare industry. I can help y'all with tech, but I have to rely on y'all as far as what these need to go in here. But we can get you in touch with the right people who can help you get those set up the correct way. So these are going to control, again, all of those screenings that you work on from that student level. And that's really all of the setup when it comes to using help inside of PowerSchool. So does anybody have any questions on those setup screens? Could RTI and IEP be added to Vision? When you say added to Vision, Allison, do you mean as an option, or you want extra questions on there? Because we can't configure any extra questions. We can just configure what's in the drop downs of the questions that are currently there. It would have to be PowerSchool core product would have to adjust their product for those. So unless they come out with an update that adds those, there wouldn't be any other questions on those. Okay? Any other questions about the setup? You have control to the drop downs, but that's about the extent of it when it comes to these. And just remember to go over that overall health setup to make sure you have those check boxes to give you those additional features inside of there. All right, so once it is all set up, the health component is really ready for you to use. Once you've got your people in with the right security settings and you've got all of your configuration done, now it's time to actually use the product. And in this case, I'm actually going to swap to a school and be in context from the school from here on out, since I'm going to do it at school level entry. So I'm going to go through each one of the components, and I'm going to try to go in as detail as possible, but I want to do this with the preface. I'm not a healthcare person, and so sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about when I say the word bulbous in a medication monitor. Y'all know exactly what it is. I have no clue. So I'm probably going to put numbers in here that don't make any sense in a true healthcare world. I'm probably going to get y'all to help me in chat put in like what a situation of one of these would look like. But I do want to go through each one of them so you have an opportunity to see what the full-fledged functionality actually is and what questions, because I know there's been a lot of questions and confusion around medications, especially on some of the monitorings and things such as that to get them set up. So we're going to kind of do a circle. I'm going to start with screenings because they kind of live on their own. Then we're going to go to the student record and look at all the different items on an individual student that you can do, and then circle back to the daily log, which is kind of where I know all of y'all live to do your minute by minute of the day insertions. So let's start with the first feature inside of Help, which is doing our screenings. Now, most of the time when y'all are scheduling screenings on the kids, sometimes y'all do it a whole class at a time. You'll bring the kids in, you'll do a scoliosis screening, or you do the hearing screening. These can be done individually on a student, or they can be done in mass on a whole group of students at one time. So what I want to do first is show you how you can do them in groups. Now, when y'all do these in groups, how many of you typically do them by, say, homeroom or a class at one time? Is that what many of you do? So feel free to throw these in chat. This is going to be a, yep, okay. So one thing that might be really beneficial, especially at your elementary schools, how many of you have this homeroom search listed on your start screen right here? This is one that I always like to show to nurses. It's a plug-in that your district has to add in. But if you have this, it allows you to go find a homeroom of students very quickly. I can go to homeroom and say, give me my 10th grade, whatever. I can do however I want to. I can sort by grade or sort by homeroom and say, search all of my students who are in, Bush's homeroom. And it will give me my student selection, and it makes them my current selection. Now, you can do this without having that kind of one button click by going to People, Staff, Teacher Schedules. And I know I'm just going to click on a teacher. Hope it's one that has some kids scheduled. If not, I'll pick another. So maybe I'm doing it for Mr. Drake's class right here. What most of you might be doing is you're going to find them. You're clicking on the enrollment number. So I have 11. And you have this option to say, make this my current student selection. So there's multiple ways that you can get a group of students selected. You can also search students one by one. So if I have these students that I just selected for Mr. Drake's class, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've got Mickey Mouse who's going to be coming here at the same time, I can always search the name and click this little blue plus sign, and it will add Mickey Mouse to my list of students. So there's multiple ways of getting a student selection inside of the SIS. But a lot of people like that homeroom search plugin just because it gives you a quick way to go grab from a list of students, providing your school is keeping that homeroom field updated on student records. So let's just say I've got these 12 kids right here, and I'm going to do a scoliosis screening on this class. Once you have your students selected, in this blue drop down arrow, which is called a group function button, in the group functions button, if you scroll down, there is an area for help. There are two options. There's health screenings and there's immunization. Again, we don't do anything with internal immunization inside of PowerSchool, so that immunization compliance is really kind of a dead link for us. We're not going to be able to do anything there. But the health screening and physical results absolutely can help me. So if I click on that, it's going to bring me to a page that I can configure to do my group screenings all at once. So it says my student selection is on the current selection of 12 students. Yep, that's who I want to work with. My date is 10-21-2025. Now, if you're doing these maybe the day after you did the screening before you get to chart them, you just need to adjust that date to be whatever you want inside of there. Are you doing a screening or a physical? Well, I'm doing a screening. Which screening am I doing? So if I do the drop down, it's going to be a list of all those screenings that we just looked at the setup for inside of the program. So I'm going to go to scoliosis. Now, the way that the mass screenings, and I'm going to use this in quotes, and you'll see why in a second, does not automatically fill everything in on each student at the same time, but we can kind of get there. You still have to submit on student screens. What I want to do is first check my default values, because this is going to say for these 12 students, I want you to start their screening results at this set of information. So if you click default values, it's basically all of the different things you have to fill in if you're doing a screening on an individual student. So what would you like the system to go ahead and pre-fill in for you? So for my screening provider name, I want it to be my name because I'm doing the screening. For the provider type, who do you want it to go ahead and fill in for? Well, I'm going to put in school nurse because we're going to pretend that that's me for today. If it was done, with an x-ray, do I have the film date? Well, yep, let's say it was done on today's date, 10/21/2025. My x-ray film impression, remember I didn't have anything set up in my little drop down other than this fake XYZ. If I had multiple different options right here, I would just drop down and choose whatever option I would want to go ahead and have in here. What I see a lot of people do, especially on these where it's like a pass fail on outcomes, a lot of people will go ahead and put pass and say, I want to start every student off with a pass, and I'll only have to go adjust those that did not pass. So pick your, what I'm going to say, path of least resistance. It'll give you the less things you have to correct after it does this default to all students. So I'm going to start everyone out with a pass, And if there's any comments that you want to be applied to every student out of the gate, you can go ahead and hit this here. But I don't have anything that I want to go ahead. So I'm going to hit save and close. So it saves all of those default values. Those are what my screening results are going to start out with. Now, which columns, you're going to build a table down here of these 12 kids. What columns do you want to display? You want to display all of the columns in which you are going to enter data and want to see data. So I'm just going to go ahead and click all of them. And then I'm going to click next to build out this table. So now here's all of my 12 kids, and this is all the information that I'm going to enter in. So what I'm going to do is click on this first student, and notice it's going to start out with all of that pre-populated default information. So the only thing I have to enter in that doesn't give me a default is going to be grade level. So I would say, yes, this is I'm just going to pick grade level. They pass. So I'm going to hit save and next. And basically it's going to be a click through. Yep, they pass, save and next. And I'm just going to keep going through, clicking save and next. So there's no way to get it to apply to all of them, but I'm going to click through all of my kiddos until maybe on this one I'm going to say, oh, well, Zaquin did not pass his. He actually failed, and I'm going to comment to the parent, put whatever comment you want on there to know, and save and close. So you can absolutely change any of the default values if you get to a kid that you don't want those values to be on the end of the screening for. By the way, grade level is not required, so if you don't want to put it in there, that's completely up to y'all. And it's the save and next. And so now that is how you mass enter. So it's not applying all of it to all the kids at one time. You still have to click through them and acknowledge that, yes, that's the information you want placed on those screenings for those kids. So it's quicker than going into them one at a time on the individual student record. And I would highly suggest using those defaults so that we'll enter all of those screenings in. So you can do that with any of these screenings that we have pre-populated inside of here. The page will adjust for any kid. So if I wanted to swap to a hearing, it's going to pop all of my hearing values. I would make sure to mark all of my hearing values in here, save and close, and then scroll through those kids. So any questions on how to enter your screenings in through this mass entry of the group functions? It's a very low level kind of mass entry, but it gives us some semblance of a mass entry. All right, so now let's go to a student. So I'm going to pull up my favorite student to work with, Mickey Mouse. Now let's go through all of the other individual functions that fall up under help. Now, when you get to a student record, you're going to see whatever you have been given page permission access to. Being a nurse, you might not see anything with academic records, with grades, or with discipline, or post-secondary readiness, because you don't need to do anything with those credentials and programs for students. So you might see a much smaller list over here on the left-hand side. But the one that you absolutely need to make sure you have access to is this health component. Now, I want you to look at all the different options that I have when I click on a student record for help. Notice my first one says Health Dashboard. That is a plugin. I'm going to show it to you at the end as I go through these other pages. It is one that I do highly recommend that our users get installed because it brings all of the health information to a single page for you, just as an overall view. What I really want to look at is this under the health profile and this under the visits, those office visits and that contact log. So let's first take a look at this item called medical contacts. So medical contacts are old school alerts is basically what it is. When we migrated from iNow into PowerSchool, any student that had what we would have called a health alert or a health concern back in iNow got migrated into these contacts right here. So have any of you ever been looking at a health concern report and you see a student that's got a random health concern up here? Like notice I've got health plans, I got health alerts and I got health concerns, and you're like, yeah, I entered all of those concerns in, but where is this allergic to homework coming from? Like, and you can't find where it's located at. That means it wasn't entered in our actually concerns module. It was added in this contact module. So if you have anybody who has any of these legacy medical alert text fields, it's going to be on this page right here. So again, that's health and medical contacts. Some people do put in doctor names here. They might put in dentist names here. So if I know that Dr. Smith at UAB, you can put all kind of information in here. Dr. Sam, who is my dentist, any special considerations. You do have the ability to denote that inside of here. However, I do know that a lot of people put this more in the health concern area than they do in the medical contact area. Completely up to you whether you want that to be as an alert. Some people will use this medical alert because it does have an expiration on here that maybe, a student broken arm and is going to be in a cast for 2 weeks, and so you want to pop it as a medical alert that will show along with the concerns and with the plans that will eventually drop off once you pass that expiration date. Completely up to you whether you want to use that page or not. All right, let me go back into health. And my next one is the actual health concerns page. Now, when it comes to the health concerns do have start and end dates, so it very much has an expiration as well. These are all built from an exact code set list. I do know that there are a lot of districts who use a type of online registration tool that might deliver health concerns over in here. So if you are using some type of delivery method from online registration, you'll really need to look at the settings that you have configured as to how they deliver, whether they come in or whether they don't come in. Some people choose to have them delivered. Some people choose to have a nurse audit the records that the parent entered in the online registration tool and decide what comes in. But if I wanted a health concern added, there is an add button up here at the top of the page. From my code set list, and these are all defined by your health professionals at the state that has a task force across the state, here is our list. So these are all that I have to choose from. So if I have allergies of medication, I would choose that. Now, there are some check boxes that are very important that you need to decide, do you want things to show? You can create a health concern that does not necessarily show up in that red medical alert for your end users. This box right here, show an alert, if you expect it to show up in this medical alert here, this box has to be checked. Once I check that box, if you'll notice, see how this is kind of grayed out down here for comments? When I check the box to show an alert, it also pops an option to show any comments about this health concern in the alert. So I can put the start date. So let's say the start date is going to be from today until, you can decide the end date or not put an end date. It's up to you. If they're allergic to meds, are they ever going to become unallergic to meds? Is that a thing? But it could be something such as something other where you're putting that, they broke their arm and you just want everybody to know they're going to be in a cast for 2 weeks. So you would have a start date and an end date for that cast. Current form. This is to be used if you have some type of form that your parents fill out and you're acknowledging that it's on the most current form that they have filled out. That's kind of a personal use within the district. And then are there any comments that you want to show? So if I say allergic to medication, maybe I want to put allergic to sulfameds, whatever it is that you want to, oh, come on, put as a note inside of there. Again, you can decide whether you want to show that in the alert or not. So maybe you want your end users or teachers to only see that they have an allergy to medication, but you don't want them to know which medication it is, but you want to know for yourself. Well, you as a nurse most likely has full access to this page right here, so you would be able to see it, but it would not show up in the health alert. So I'm going to choose to not display this just to show you that. So if I hit save, notice it added that alert in here. And if I go to the alerts, here's my plans, Here is my health concern. So that was an environmental, nail biting, art. And notice it just says allergies, medication. Nowhere in there does the end user who gets access to that alert see that I put in the comments that they were allergic to sulfur meds. So you get to put and control whether they see just the comment, just the alert or the comments that go with those alerts inside of there. Someone asked in the chat, is there a way to put in an alert like student's parent has passed away or something non-medical that is pertinent? Yes, Kelly, there is actually a whole nother set of alerts that can be entered in called student alerts that are up under the student profile, this student alerts area right here. So we have an entire alert suite that you can use for things that are non-medical alerts. There is, again, that old school medical alert text from the medical contacts. It writes to here, but we have other alerts like here I could put, student's parent has passed away, or, cannot be paddled, or missing, do not assign Chromebook to student. You have these different types of alerts that you can configure as a district. So there is a mechanism to do alerts that are non-medical that you would want to add somewhere to the student record up here on the header. So if I come back into the health concerns, and looking at this page here, at any point in time, if you need to edit an alert, for example, let's say a student has outgrown their allergy. We have kids that sometimes are allergic to penicillin and they outgrow it, or, I'm allergic to peanuts, but then all of a sudden I can start eating peanuts. We've got those kind of things. If you ever needed to go in and edit to then end date it, you absolutely could put the end date on here. So if I end date it for today's date, notice it takes it away. Well, you still have the historical record that it was there, because if you look up here in the top right hand corner, do you see where it says show all and it says +3? That means not only do I have 3 items in the list, but I have 3 more items that have come to their end date. So if I click that box, it's going to show all of my expired or past date, end dated medical alerts or concerns that I have placed inside of here. So you can kind of control the visibility in here. If anything has passed their date, it will not show up inside of my red alert right here. So notice if I look back at my health concerns, there's my allergy, environmental, my nail biting, and my health. And notice this medication says that end date, and it will drop off once that end date passes because it's still active for today. It's on there, but tomorrow it will not be. Margaret, our school system has had problems with health concerns rolling over for enrollment to CIS since we've had PowerSchool. This year I was told it's not working because there's no end date on the health concerns from previous advice. Unfortunately, when it comes to those that come from those outside products, there's not much advice I can give, Margaret, because it's not one of our state contracted products, and I've never personally worked with any of the online enrollment products to know what setup possibility is possible over there. I would say get a meeting with your PowerSchool rep that sold you that, so that they can get you in touch with the right people for that online enrollment product to answer that question for you. That's kind of the only kind of, yeah, I hate that I don't know more about those enrollment products, but it's the same thing. Okay, so Kate says that she has the same issue and she put in a ticket with the enrollment system and they were able to fix it. I know just by the conversations I hear districts talking about, there is a lot of functionality with these concerns, and 9 times out of 10, they can fix it. It's just a matter of you getting to the right tech support person at that product to get them to do it. So don't give up, like keep bearing down on them until you get a person who can get it to work for you. All right, any other questions on the health concerns part? One thing I do want to draw your attention to inside of here, how many of you have this change history? See this little blue change history up here at the top? Change history is another feature that's on the majority of our pages inside of PowerSchool, where you can see when things have been edited, added, deleted, all kinds of things inside of here. Many times people will say, Stacy, PowerSchool just wiped out all of our health concerns. And I can tell y'all absolutely, things do not just disappear in this program. Somebody has pressed a button somewhere to make it delete. Either they've imported a file that wiped it out, or some kind of script was run, or something has happened to it. I can always look at the change history and see exactly who made the change and what change was made. Now, this is very date driven, so if you want to look at stuff that happened, months back, you would need to adjust your filters up here and apply, and you would be able to see anything that's happened. So in the last year, oops, I did not start that correctly, 2024. Let's just choose those dates and apply. Notice I can see that on today's date, it showed where at 1:39 I added this allergy, and I can see here that I took it, I did an end date to it. I can also see back in December of 2024, I added in that environmental allergy. So you can kind of see who is adding things, who's deleting things, what the before and what the after was on all of these. So change history is very important when trying to track down issues where things were something and it's been changed to something else or it's been removed altogether. So now let's move to the next part of the health profile, which are the health plans. Now, health plans are another interactive component inside of the health feature. We have plans that are templates that are pushed down from the state level. So if you go to add a plan, you are going to see all of our ALSDE templates. Now, if somebody has gone in and created some templates and things like that that are not ALSDE on there, you're going to see them in the list. Some people did go in and add some things in here before we got things locked down across the state. So just be very cognizant of what you're choosing, and please always look at your ALSDE defined plans. I'll also say this. I do know that each year these plans are reviewed by Dr. Marshall and the team at the state that's overall things health. If there are any changes to these plans, we have to recode them at the state level and then we push them out. Like some of y'all probably saw that we made updates to the diabetic and the seizure plans this year based on something that y'all saw in that form that she shares with y'all like during the summer of the updates. If you ever see one that has not been updated, please let us know, because sometimes in the just busyness of the school year, me and Dr. Marshall don't get a chance to talk, and I don't know that there's been a change that's made until one of y'all say, hey, Stacy, this doesn't match the sheet that we were given. So we'll go get with her and say, hey, can you show me all the sheets, and we'll make those adjustments. Now, the one thing that it does not do is it does not adjust any plan that you already have in place. So keep that in mind, that if you want to see the new changes of the plan, that you have to come up here and add the plan. Now, I've got lots of plans inside of here, but I'm going to come on and add another one. And I'm going to pull down the new diabetic plan. Now you can, once you pull the template, you can adjust the actual name that comes here to this page right here, so that if you need to see, hey, this is the plan for 2024. So I know that it's that version, so I'm going to say this is the 2020, and actually it's 2025, not 2024. I'm going to call it this plan, because a lot of people like to have a plan for each year of the student. How many of y'all take advantage of that copy plan feature at the beginning of the school year so that you can kind of leave last year's plan as it was and make any changes to the plan for the current year? Do any of y'all use that copy feature? I hope so, because that is exactly how you can do changes and it not just overwrite things in real time, because we like to see kind of snapshots of year to year changes on all of our stuff in PowerSchool. So I would put the start date. We're going to say this plan starts today. You can put the end date. So if I know I'm going to use this through the end of the school year, I can put that it goes, June 1st, 2026 or July 1st, 2026, all of that. Yeah, Molly, I'll show that copy feature in just a second. I can then come down here, and guys, this is very rudimentary. It's basically text. It's you typing in whatever you need inside of here. So if I need to say that he is actually grade 12, that the district is XYZ district, I can put any information that I need to in here, and it's just typing. Now, when it comes to these health plans, be really, really careful about copying and pasting, because copying and pasting can reformat this and throw things out of skew. It can also cause cross-site scripting errors, because it will bring some of the code in the back end in, and it doesn't know what to do with it. So just be very careful. Another big thing to keep in mind is be careful with what symbols you use in here. You do not ever want to use a greater than or a less than symbol anywhere in any health plan because it reads it as actual HTML code and it will throw a cross-site scripting error. If you are ever needing to use greater than or less than, please spell the words out. So if you say, check that the blood glucose sugar level is greater than 70 or less than the 110 or whatever it's supposed to be. Make sure to spell those out in words and don't use those symbols, or it can cause errors and not allow the plan to save. And I'm sure some of y'all have run across some of those errors at time and are banging your head on the wall going, what am I doing wrong? And it's as simple as it's trying to read symbols as HTML coding. So once you get everything entered into the plan as you want to see it, if it is completed, you would want to mark it as completed and then submit to save that plan to the page here. And so now I see that I have my ALSDE Diabetic 2025 plan. Now someone was asking about how do I use the copy feature. So if I didn't want to go and do this from a template and start all over, if I wanted to use the 2024 plan as it is, I can do this save as feature and then save it with a new name. So if I wanted to copy this exact plan with all the information I've already filled out and use it for 2025, I could absolutely do that and save, and it will save it as another copy of it. And you could adjust this where it didn't have copy in there and it just said diabetes 2025 in there if you want to. So that's how you can take a plan that you had last year and then save it, bring all that information in, and just adjust for whatever you need to save for this current school year that you are in. How do we enter a read receipt to send the care plans to the teachers? So you don't have to do anything for that. Once you create the plan and the plan has been completed, it will then trigger that plan over to the teacher side. So let me pop in. Let's see if I still have yep, I've been signed out. Let me log into the teacher portal to show you a few things about these plans. So if I go in this teacher, nope, I don't want to reload the last page. There's a couple of things that you could do to get to these read receipt areas for the teachers. They can either click on student information, click on the student here, go to these screens and notice that there are screens here that they can see from the what I'm going to call admin side. Now, one of the things that we really like, and I'm trying to think, do I have my at-risk cumulative demographics meeting? I don't have it turned on here. This is very cumbersome to have them to have to scroll into a class, scroll into a kid, and one at a time go through their health receipts. One of the things that we did as a state is built a plugin that the majority of districts have implemented. Instead of them having to go in each individual student record to go find that acknowledgement, there is a plugin that you can install that will bring all of the health information to this left-hand side under this student health plans. So if your teachers have this enabled, or if you have enabled this for your teachers will click on this page right here. It will look across all of your students in all of your classes and tell you these are all of your students and all of the plans that I need you to acknowledge. It will even tell you if you have acknowledged it yet. So if I click on this one, because this is a new one that I have not acknowledged as a teacher, I will click on this. And it's going to bring me that health plan that, just got filled out by the nurse. They can read it through here. Up here at the top, you get this checkbox that says, I acknowledge I have read and understand this plan, and I will acknowledge. And it will check off that I have acknowledged this plan. Now, something to keep in mind that we are currently working on. If you go and edit this plan and make any changes to it and resave it, it is going to add an additional set of read receipts to the list of people who need to actually do that receipt from there. So you'll notice this shows that I just acknowledged this receipt and the date it was read. I've talked with my plugin developer who worked on that overall plugin. We're going to try to see if we can somehow build out a notification to let teachers know that y'all have made an adjustment to the plan, that they need to go in and re-acknowledge it. Because I know right now y'all are just having to go chase them down and going, hey, I need you to log back in because you need to re-acknowledge. So do know that we're working on that on the backside to see if we can get that for you. Sydney just asked, can they print from that screen? Oh, so you're talking about from this screen here if they were to log into it? If I go in here, most of these, if I did a control P, I think it's just going to bring kind of the whole screen as it is. So it doesn't give an overall printable view. And I don't think I can do it from right clicking in it either. Nope, it's just going to do that overall screen that you see. So that would be a no on this side right here on those teachers being able to see those. And even if I had one that had already been acknowledged, I think it's going to be the same thing where you don't print from that side. Most of the print functionality is going to be over in the admin side. So even if I try to do a control P or print here, it's only going to give me that front facing page and not give me that scroll feature. So you would not be able to print that as the classroom teacher. Now, when it comes to the district being able to print it, you absolutely can come in here, hit that print feature. And here, guys, is where it's going to depend on your printer settings as to how this looks. So if you'll notice, mine looks pretty good right here. Like they'll change it. Oh, I just hit the 1 hour mark, so y'all give me just a second. At 1 hour, WebEx always throws me out of this program. So I have to just restart my little tab back up. Can y'all see my screen again now? Perfect, thank you. So what I was saying is that some districts have to go in and adjust their print scaling. And I know if you have really, really weird issues with the printing, put in a PowerSchool support ticket because Dana has become an expert at helping y'all navigate the print settings that your district puts on their printers to know how you need to adjust it so that it will print correctly for you each time. But I want you to see here, under normal circumstances, they come out in a very favorable printable view for you to print these out and give to whoever you might need to inside of there. Hang on, some of y'all had new messages come in, so let me scroll back up. How we doing? When the nurses or teachers try to print a healthcare plan from PowerSchool, the format is off. So yeah, this is where you want to make sure that you kind of look. If you see that it's off some, try to adjust your scale sizing right here. And I got to that. Let me cancel out and show you how I got that. When I go to print, if you see that this does not look appropriate, come down into your printer settings and click more settings and try to adjust your scaling. Sometimes we have to go down to a 60%. I have to do that on some of my enterprise reports and such that I print to get it to look a little bit better inside of there. So play with that to see if that adjusted in a way that looks a little bit better. If you have issues with that, that's when you'll want to put in a ticket with PowerSchool support and they can help you adjust, because these settings over here are based on your district policy for your printers. So every district is slightly different in what they have to do to adjust to get those to print. But I promise y'all guys, they actually can print very well. As you can see right here in my print preview, it's coming across formatted pretty perfectly. Copying and pasting sometimes gets these formats off, so that's one reason why I say be very careful and try to do actual typing into these. I know it takes a little bit longer, but it keeps the format of them in the intended HTML format and doesn't give you as many printer issues as when you copy or paste inside of there. Is this version of the diabetic care plan printing better than before? This one, it seems to be for me. Please show one more time how teachers can see the read receipts. Laura, I will tell you, I have, if you go to, are y'all all familiar with the Alabama PowerSchool website? I have an entire page dedicated to health on here, and I have a video right here that will walk you through on the teacher side, and even for your administrators, like how many of you are like, I need my counselors and my principals to acknowledge the plans. This video right here will walk you through again so that you can send that to them. Here is how you go in as a teacher and acknowledge those plans. So you can absolutely send them that YouTube video right there. What's the easiest way for a teacher to print the plan so they don't get that printer functionality like you do? So if you expect them, oh, what just happened to my thing? If you expect them to print that out, you would have to print for them and give to them because they don't have that printer functionality inside of there. All right, so Tiffany, you have them to highlight everything in the health plan and then right click and print, which, yeah, because that does a print selection, which you could do. It just might not look all that great inside of there. Now, Allison, Dana, you have to do it through a PowerSchool support ticket. It goes to overall PowerSchool support. I know she's just one of the lead support people for, not Dana. I said Dana, she's my special programs. But I know Joy, Pat is another one. We have a whole team that is contracted through PowerSchool to provide support for you. So just put in a PowerSchool support ticket and they'll be able to help you with that. Is there a way to notify teachers when the health plan is created and ready? Not right now. There's not an alert. They just have to go in and look at it. That's, Tiffany, one of the things we're working on to see if we can give them a notification that will let them know that there's been a health plan added over there. So we're working on that. Who creates the health plans? We do here at the State Department. So we pretty much take those forms that are given to you and we create this rich text format right here. Can the student's info auto-populate in the plans? There are only certain, they're called DAT codes, that we can use in creating these health plans. Okay, did my screen just, all right, my screen froze up. Let me get back into Mickey. Those health plans, I'll give me 1 second. WebEx just does not like to play with me on some days. But those health plans are all they're all coded through HTML, and there's only certain DAT codes that we can pull things into. So anything that we have been able to DAT and pull into you, we do, but a lot of it can't, and you just have to re-enter that stuff in, unfortunately. Oh, great, Laura. Yes, that helps. That website really, really helps. All right, let's see if I can get the page to come back up. I might just have to log back in. I'm hoping our site did not just go down in the middle of the webinar. It did not, thank you. Give me a minute. All right, let's go back into Mickey. So any other questions about the health plan? The less you adjust in it, the better it becomes for you. You can you can view your read receipts in a couple of different areas. You can view them here. So if I wanted to look here to see who had signed off for it, I can also look at this read receipt area up here, where it kind of gives me a different view of all of them across all plans for them. So notice I got 7 pages of read receipts here because this student, I had everything to them. They have all these plans. So if you want to look at the read receipts for a individual plan, you'll want to look in this column view. If you want to look across all of the plans, all of the teachers, you'll want to look up here. We also have an enterprise report that you can run that will show you those, and we'll talk about those later. For any that do have an end date that you've put that expiration on, again, you have this show all button here where if I wanted to see any old plans, I would see anything that was ended. So this was a plan they had back in 2022, because you're not going to realistically have all the different plans inside of here. You're not going to have as many as this student has just because we have 2 pages of plans on him. So you probably have a nice clean site. You don't want to keep rolling plan after plan after plan from the last 12 years of a student. You want to make sure you put an end date on it so it kind of archives up here, and then you can pull them down to view them when you need to and let them archive back and clean your page up whenever they are finished and past their end date. There are filters up here, so if you wanted to do a basic one of like give me every, diabetic one, you can filter and it will go into those names. If you want to look for specific things, you can filter by the name, the start date, the end date, or the status. So if you wanted to say, show me all of them that are completed or all that are draft, you can do different filters on these pages and it will give you all of those inside of here. So there's all my completed plans. Here are all of my draft plans. So if you do have a student with a lot of them on there, you can do some filtering capability inside of there. All right, let's go to the fun one, medication. So medication is one that you can create and it will go to your daily log so that you know when meds need to be administered to students. You don't necessarily have to have a medication scheduled to be able to administer the medication to the student because it might be a one-off if you just got inventory in on a student. Now, I'm going to completely warn you that I've got a lot of stuff here on Mickey, so you're going to see lots of things that are in there that haven't been ended. But let's pretend that we have a clean slate right here and we don't have any medication on Mickey. How would I go through and add medication? Or actually, let's swap to a student that maybe doesn't have something. Let's go to Luke Skywalker. He's another one I like to work with. Notice that you can use this quick search up here to go to another student record without leaving the record of the student that you were on. Because I know as nurses, y'all are in your office, you're doing things and you get called out for something. And so it used to be that you would have to close out of that student, go into another one and go do something else. You can actually use quick search to get into another student record real quick and not be knocked out of the other record that you were in. So here I've got Luke. He's got no medications, but let's say something has happened and he now needs to take some Benadryl, once a day for the next 5 days or any kind of prescription that they have. How do we start the medication process? You're going to start by clicking add. We're going to define this medication. So when is my start date? So let's say that it's today. So for today, for 1 week, we're going to go through and prescribe these meds. Now, there is a default setting where we've set for medication to automatically end for a year. That's what most districts have it set to, but you absolutely can change this. So if I know it's only going to be done for 1 week, I'm going to do it, the 21st through the 27th, or let's say the 28th. You can go through and pick a medication category, but I wouldn't even fool with that, y'all. I would go through and start typing. Now, this list is a very long list of meds. Our code set list is like almost 2,000. And any of the latest ones that I've put in don't automatically get put in alphabetical order. Sometimes these are very much out of order. So what you want to do is you just want to start typing. If I just start typing BEN, it's going to start looking for that set of letters in any of those medications. So type them in and see if you see it. Now, let's say you are looking for a medication that does not appear in that list. What do you need to do? You need to email Dr. LaBrenda Marshall. In fact, she sent me one today. I forgot one of y'all sent her an email and said, hey, I have an ADHD med that I do not see in the list. Email it to Dr. Marshall. She will then send it to me and she has to give the approval for me to add it into PowerSchool. I try to do a 1-day turnaround unless I'm out of the office for some reason. It does not take me long to get those added to the code set and then they sync in overnight to you. So if you ever need a medication added that you do not see in this list, just email Dr. Marshall, but we do ask 2 things from you. Please tell us what category it's supposed to be in and what the medication name you want it to be in the list, because I do not know anything about meds to know what category they're in. So I always ask that you tell me, is it here's all our different categories. Is it ADHD medicine? Is it anti-migraine? And if there's a category that's not listed that it needs to go in, let us know that too, because I can add to these lists as well. She just has to approve it ahead of time. So let me go find my Benadryl. There's Benadryl. And now we're going to put the dosage. Now, I wanted to drop down that unit because here is where our biggest mistakes happen with medicine. And Benadryl is probably a bad one to use, but let's talk about actual dosing units versus things like pills. So let's say that they gave you, I don't know, can Benadryl even come in a pill form? I think it can. So let's say that it comes in this pill form and they're 200 milligram. I don't even know if that's right. Maybe it's 50 milligram pills. I don't, y'all help me out. I told you I know nothing about health. I can help you with this, but don't trust me to save your life. um, when it comes to, let's say, a 50 milligram pill, and let's say that there's 10 pills in this bottle, okay? You have to make the decision, how do you want to record this quantity for the dosage and for the inventory? You need to be consistent. So you either need to decide that you are going to record it in those milligrams and you're going to do some math, or you're going to use the tablets, pills, puffs, one of those generic. Okay? Look at your PPE, see how they are saying it in that documentation. You decide. So if I've got 10 50 milligram pills and I'm deciding, okay, I'm going to do it all in milligrams, then 50 times 10 is 500. So that is one way I could put it in. I could say I've got 500 milligrams because there's 10 pills at 50 milligrams each. So when I go to dose this student, as I'm giving it on my to-do list, I'm going to have to make sure I dose the inventory in milligrams. So I gave them 2 pills, that's going to be 100 milligrams. Like, you're going to have to do that math. Or your other decision is to use the overall pill, and you can say, okay, I was given 10 pills, and that means when you go to dose it, you're going to say, I'm giving them 2 pills. It's going to do the math consistently across whichever unit you choose here. But whatever unit you choose here is how it's going to do the inventory. And y'all, I know that is not how it's normally done in the healthcare world. And we have to remember, this is not really a healthcare product. It's more of just a student record keeping for health. So we have to understand how it works so that we can do it in the right way to keep all of the numbers accurate inside of there. So if I go back to, let's say, the milligram, 10 pills of 50 milligrams is 500 milligrams. What is the route? So I would choose what the correct route is and how it's given. So these are going to be oral. There's the frequency. So how many times a day are you going to give this? This is just going to be as needed, or maybe it's a one a day or twice. Like, you get these options right here. When it comes to this frequency, this has absolutely nothing to do with how many times it's going to show up on your daily log. It is just a field for you to denote on, but it has nothing to do with how it actually appears on the log. This down here is where it's going to show how often it shows up on the daily log. So if it was something that was like twice a day, 2 times a day, maybe I've got to take, 1 pill in the morning, 1 pill in the afternoon, or just 1 pill at lunch, something like that. You would come in here and schedule the time. So if I have that they need to come in, let's say at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'd have 9 a.m. If I needed to add another time because they need to schedule to be come in at, let's say, 2 o'clock p.m., then I could schedule it like that. I could have this on 3 times a day and only schedule 2 times. Again, this has nothing to do with how it actually schedules. Also, when you pick these times, it's going to apply to every single day of the week. There is no way to cut it to say they need to have it once a day, twice a week. It's not like the monitoring where I can choose it. It's going to be done on Mondays and Wednesdays. I will say I have asked for an enhancement request on PowerSchool to put that functionality in here where y'all can choose which days of the week to actually let this hit the daily log. Because right now it's going to hit every day and you just have to go in and mark that it's not needed for that day. So you'll choose which times. Primary reason for giving. So again, these are all based on code sets. And by the way, if you aren't familiar with the code sets, that site that I showed you, the Alabama PowerSchool site, there is a link right here. It's this very first one to our data code manual. Inside the state's data code manual, section 3 is all about health. If you want to know what the exhausted list of all drop downs in health come from, it's from this right here. I'm going to click on this link and actually pop this spreadsheet out. Close some of these. And notice the tabs across the bottom. For screenings, for office visits, for monitoring, medications, this is where those drop-down lists are built from. So if you're ever on any of these pages and you're like, I really wish we had a drop-down that said this, then you just need to communicate that to Dr. Marshall, because if she approves it, then yes, we can update. We control at the state level everything that's inside of these drop downs in here. And they're all based on this. So she can approve for other things to be added if y'all ask. Now, sometimes people have asked for things that have not been approved because a task force does get together to kind of determine it, or there'll be some reason that it doesn't need to be put in there. I know that a lot of people have asked about health concerns, like the mental health concerns. Those were actually taken out about 5 years ago for a specific reason. And so she has to say no every time people ask for those to get put back in. You have to use the other for any of those. So if you're ever wondering about any of these codes, here's all the medication ones. If you think something should be added, just communicate to her and we can absolutely get those added in. So I would sit here and, let's say for Benadryl, I don't know, what are we going to say for Benadryl? Allergies, environmental, add as needed because maybe it's hay fever season and they take Benadryl. You would put whatever provider information, so put your doctor information here, any contact information, you just type all of that in, and you've got 4,000 characters of notes that you can type in whatever you need to put inside of there for those record keeping. For my credentials, I'm going to put my SR, that I'm a RN, other big letters that I don't know what they mean, but it means y'all are very, very important, and we appreciate you for that. You would put your credentials inside of there. Once you have that in there, you're going to hit save. Oh, it should be alphanumeric. So let me just put in RN. There should be no spaces apparently. And let's save. So the first thing we've done is we have scoped out the actual medication that we're going to be giving. The next thing that we've got to do is put in the inventory of how much of the meds have been given to us. So I'm going to come over here to this little inventory box and I'm going to click on it. And down here at the bottom, notice it tells me right here, inventory is 0. We've got the medication, the structure of it set up. Now we're going to click this add button and we're going to add. So on today, let's say again, my unit that I picked was milligrams. So if I have 10 pills of 50 milligrams each, then that means I have a total of 500 milligrams of medicine in this bottle, knowing they're 10 pills. I would pick my inventory action. So in this case, this would be received, but we know if we are ever inventorying things out at the end of the year, this is what you would do. So if you had some that got damaged, maybe a pill dropped on the floor and somebody stepped on it, so you had to inventory that out, you could put it as a damage and it would take that off of there for you. Expiration date. Here's another one of those where PowerSchool's naming and what y'all know as being a healthcare professional do not match. When you see the word expiration date, what do you think of? Type it in chat. When you see expiration date, what are you expecting to enter in right here? I'm curious what y'all think. What does expiration date mean to you? What most people think is that it means the expiration date on that pill bottle of that medicine, which most medicines are good for about a year. Well, that's not what this expiration date means. Expiration date here is the expiration of the orders, how long they're actually taking that. So if I know that I've only got 10 pills that are going to last me for a week, then that's what my expiration date is. And that's where we get a lot of confusion on these things moving off of that original page. So how long am I going to be given this medicine of those 10 pills? So I'm only supposed to be giving it for a week. So there's my 10/21 to 10/28. It is almost mimicking that start and end date of the original med that I started on that medications page. So if I put that expiration date here, and then I come and I put my staff member, I'm the one who is adding this inventory. I can add any notes inside of here. And I hit save. So now I have inventory right here of 500, keeping in mind it's 500 milligrams. And I will see down here there is my inventory. So if mom brings in more later, I can just keep adding, and I would add again. I got another 500 milligrams. I got another 10 pills. I got another, whatever it is. You would just keep adding until you get all your layers as the years go on. Now I'm going to hit close. That will then make that, yep, it tells me it's within 30 days. That's okay. That is going to now make that pop on that overall daily record. So if I were to, let's go back to my start page. If I were to look, I'm at my high school. If I were to go into help and go into my daily to-do list, I should now see see, it's going to put all those that I just did all the screenings on. If I were to come down here, here it is. Luke Skywalker at 9 o'clock has to take this medicine. Now, when it comes to dispensing this medicine, I can either do one of two things. I can live by my daily health record, which means I can click into here, into this date. It pulls up the same screen as if I were on the individual student record, and I click this dose. This dosage right here is that same screen where I can go through and add that small box. So notice that screen, same as this screen. So two different ways that you can get to that student record. I have a feeling that when I went out of WebEx a while ago, it messed the chat up. So if any of y'all are putting anything in chat, I don't think I'm seeing it right now. When it comes to this, when I want to add that medication in, so I'm going to say it's 9 o'clock. Now, it might be that it was actually taking it at 9:05 or something such as that, because rarely are we ever right at the exact time. You would put the time you gave that dose. So I'm going to come here and type 9, tab over 05, click the A, and it's going to flip it to AM. Which, by the way, a lot of people don't realize that when you're entering in AM and PM on here, you can literally just click A and P on your keyboard. It will automatically update that AM and PM. It does not matter where you're at inside of that box, so you don't have to scroll over it if you don't want. How much am I administering? So again, let's say it was supposed to be the 2 pills and that they were 10 milligrams or 50 milligrams each. So 2 pills would be 100 milligrams. I would put the amount of that dosage, again, keeping everything in that same common unit. What kind of dose? So again, this is one of these drop downs that we have, and I'm going to say this was administered by the school nurse. So again, if y'all are saying that you want this to have something else inside of here, let Dr. Marshall know, and if she approves it, we can add them to this list if you need other options other than what you see here. And then I can pick my staff member, put whatever notes I need in right here, put in my credentials, and hit save. So it does not matter if I enter it from this screen on the individual student record, or if I enter it from my daily to-do list. If I were to refresh this daily to-do list and scroll back down, I would see that Luke Skywalker now has his information filled in. So I absolutely can do it two ways. And this is why I was saying if you needed to come and do another medication, so if you had it as needed, and even though you had scheduled these to be at, at 9 o'clock in the morning, but something happened and he needed one at 2 o'clock, but you don't have it scheduled for 2 o'clock, you can still come in here at any time, click on that dose, and add a new record in here. You do not have to have it on that daily log to administer medication. I really think the chat has gone away for me, and I feel like y'all are asking some questions in there. I don't know how to make it come back. WebEx is not my friend today. So that's really the medication piece from top to bottom. The biggest thing is making sure that you understand that you put end dates and expiration dates kind of all mean the same thing. Once these dates pass, if you have a date on this medication and on all inventory records. So let's say you've taken in 5 different inventory records of this medicine. If all of the expiration dates have passed, then that medicine will come off of this screen and go to this little part right here for the hide expired medications. If you'll notice, Mickey, I've got all these meds right here, but I've got this hide expired and there's 4 of them on there. So if I unclick it, and yep, there is a bug that says that, hey, you have inventory, even though when you don't, PowerSchool's still working on that. But these 4 right here have all expired. If I were to click into each one of these and look at their inventory, you would see that my inventories have those exit dates inside of there so that it will then end date and hide, and you don't see all of those old medications from years ago. Now, I have talked to a couple of districts where y'all are seeing hundreds of medications from like 2019 and 2020 before we were even inside of PowerSchool. And so you don't even have inventory in here to go end date to make it disappear. If y'all are seeing that, I highly recommend putting in a PowerSchool support ticket so they can help you go into the tables and get those end dated and off of that list for you. I'm not even sure why anybody would have done a migration of any of the meds in 19 and 20 since we didn't go live with PowerSchool into 2021. So somebody in implementation did something incorrectly for you. So take a look at that. And that is medication. Now, when it comes to monitoring, here we have a little more functionality, but kind of somewhat similar to the meds. This is where I can go in and schedule, but I can schedule for specific days of the week. This is the functionality I really want to get over into the medication side. So you have 3 types of monitoring events that you can work on. You can do diabetic monitoring on students, you can do catheter monitoring on students, and you can do tube feedings on students. They all work the same way. It's just the different content inside of there. So let's say that I have a tube feeding on a student that we need to schedule. Doesn't matter the type, they're all going to be done the same way. I'm going to click this schedule button, and I'm going to look right here to see all of the different schedules that I've already got on a possible student. So let me go to Luke, who does not have anything scheduled, so we don't get all of that inside of there. So if I go to scheduling, notice I don't have anything there. So I can either click add from there, or I can click add from here. Going to give me kind of the same thing. If I click it from here, I can add my detail. So I'm going to say it's going to start on today's date because maybe Luke just enrolled with me today. And I'm going to do these through the end of school. So I can put, 7/1/2026. Must be before 6/25. So I must have an end date on this student of 6/5 because it tells me I can't go past the end of my school year. So I'm going to start them now, and I'm going to do these monitoring events for the entire school year. I can choose my time. So let's say that it is an 8:30 in the morning. I have to do this feeding, and this is where I can choose which days of the week I am actually performing these. So if I need it to be done every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and on Fridays, because maybe the student doesn't come on Thursdays or something like that. It does give options of Saturdays and Sundays because remember, PowerSchool is an international product, and there are some schools that actually go to school on weekends. I can choose it to check where it will only display it on in-session day, so it is reading your school calendar. And if you have a day that is marked to be out of school, then it will not put that date on your calendar. So I would highly recommend having that checked. Click OK. Once this has been set up and you want to submit it to be scheduled, you click Submit. And it says, are you sure you want to create? Because it's literally going to create a thing on the daily log for every single day of this date range for these days that you have picked. So I'm going to say, yes, I do want to go through and get that scheduled. And now it tells me the series has been completed. So I'm going to click Close. Now, one of the things that really gets to people is that the dates are backwards. It starts with the end of the school year instead of the beginning of the school year. You can click on that to flip it. So if I know 10/1 is when I just started, I can just click on these headers and it will resort this information. Now, just like with the medications, I can administer a monitoring from this page here. Or if I go back to my daily to-do list, let me refresh it now that I have this added for Luke Skywalker. If I come here and scroll down for today's date, I'm now going to see that at 8:30 in the morning, there is Luke, and oh, I chose diabetic monitoring instead of tube feeding, but it's okay. Whichever one I have to do, all works the same. You'll see that it's in the list. So I can administer this from my screen here, or just like with medication, I can administer it from the individual student record. It gives you the exact same flyout, exact same options inside of here. So I would just go through and say, okay, at 8:30 in the morning, whichever time, or maybe it was actually at 8:45 by the time I got to the student. Blood glucose. Let's say I checked his blood glucose and it was within normal limits. Each of the thing for the ketones. And by the way, if you're ever wondering, let me just cancel this right quick, like what those mean. When you are inside of this page right here, if you click on this question mark and go to system help, it will actually take you to information about this daily log. So if you have questions about screenings, the download, you can go through the different parts of help and it will help you. Same thing as if I'm over here and I click on this and go to system help while I'm in the student screen, it kind of gives me some information about adding monitoring. I actually have lots of information on all the different health components here, but it explains to me the terms like what does it mean for carbs at a meal? What does the bolus mean? What does the correction mean? It walks through how to do those scheduling events. So if you didn't know that you could click this question mark, it will take you in depth some of the health setup pieces inside of here. So if I want to go through and complete this, let's say again it was at 8:45. Blood glucose, let's say actual, and yep, let's say it was 313. I do not know if that is good or bad. Maybe you didn't do any of this right now. Maybe all you're doing is a checkup just on the blood sugar first thing in the morning. If there's any kind of pump, if you were doing anything inside of here, you would mark for that, and then any kind of treatment that you have. So let's just say, I don't know, that seems like a little high. So what's a low blood? Maybe like 90. That would be considered low. I don't know if that's too low. If that's low, and maybe I had to give them a protein snack to try to up the blood sugar. I would want to mark all that needed to apply for any of these values right here, and it could be different for different instances on any of these monitoring events. Put your provider information, put contact information, any notes that you want in there, and whether they are complete. Now, I do realize some of y'all are seeing these doubles down here. It's because we've got a duplication in code sets that are not in the enterprise controller, but they're in all of your districts. I've got to get them scripted out. So I'm working with PowerSchool to get this duplication fixed down here. If it is complete or you need them to recheck or return, you mark it as needed. I'm going to say this is complete, and I'm going to hit submit. And it will fill that information in. And again, I'm going to see it here, and it's also going to show that same information if I were to refresh my daily to-do screen inside of here. So let that refresh, scroll back down to my 8:30 time slots, and I'll see that that was now updated to say at 8:45, all of this was done. And I can click from here and again see the exact same thing that was entered while I was over here on this student screen. So it does not matter if you are doing a diabetic or a tube feeding or a catheter, all of them are kind of set up and scheduled that exact same way. Easiest way, get that schedule in there, choose the time of the day, choose the days of the week. If you need to have it multiple times a day, then what you would need to do is add multiple scheduling events. So let's say that I'm supposed to check the monitoring of the diabetic monitoring at 8:30 in the morning, but I also need to do it before they go home at like 2:30 in the afternoon. I would just need to do a secondary schedule. So I come over here to add, choose those same dates again. So maybe I'm doing it for, the whole school year, 2026. And then I would put over here 2:00 p.m. on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, whichever day of the week it needs to be done on, and hit OK. Submit, schedule. Now I'm going to have a log for it to appear at 2:00 and at 8:30. So you kind of have to do the meds and the monitoring slightly different in how it shows on that daily to-do list, but you can enter as many of these as you need to inside of there. Our next part of health is just doing any kind of physical, which I don't know how often y'all do the physicals on the students, but you can have the option to add any physical screenings where you are able to go through and document any physical information on students, the date, any type of forms, and any documentation that you might need to do inside of there. Screenings, same thing that I showed you on that group page. You can add screening information on an individual student simply by coming here and saying, all right, I'm going to do a hearing screening. I would be able to go through. It's going to put any of those defaults that you've already entered over on that setup page inside of there so that you could save it. So screenings can be done in mass or on individual. And then there's an additional info screen where if you wanted to collect some information on insurance, other school information, you would be able to. And in fact, our latest enterprise report that we put out there for you actually pulls you a report of all students that you have this information entered on. Immunizations, again, we don't do anything with immunization records in here. So if you go to immunizations, it should pass you over to Imprint. Office visits. When it comes to office visits, again, we can look at any office visits that have been added. We can add them from here. And so I would go through and add in all of my visit details. Now, there are quite a few different subsections of office visits. You really can add as little or as much in here, with all the asterisks being what are the bare minimum that PowerSchool requires for you to get something in here. So for visit type, again, this is a drop down, which means it's being driven from these code sets right here. So if you want to see what everything is that we have in all of these drop downs, here is where that spreadsheet lies. So if you say, oh, I need a visit type that is something other than this right here, have that conversation with Dr. Marshall and she will decide if we can add this to it or not. So let's just say that there was an accident today at 2:34. I can say, you know, it was very quick, 2:35. School nurse, RN. If I contacted the parent, I can make a note here that they were contacted for this visit. The visit reason, let's just say an abrasion, a scrape, something quick that, you know, they scraped their knee out there on the playground and you need to put a Band-Aid on it. So I can make my note, scrape knee on, you know, slide, put Band-Aid. If you take any vital signs, you can absolutely document those here. If you want to put any type of accident information, you can put these in. Again, these are all going to be from our code sets. This one's actually a new one that we've got to see how we're going to get that set down for y'all. If this was like an arm, knee, foot, so let's say it's a leg because I did it on the knee and we did it outside on the playground, and I can say, you know, skin knee. Any assessment information that you want to put in here, you would just choose that, put your notes inside of here, and any outcomes or actions that you want to document inside of here. If I called a parent, just, you know, left a message, any of these that I want to do, say I called parent guardian, procedure was, let's see, is there something on here to the wound care, basic wound care, did a bandage applied, provider, put your information, your contact, and any notes that you want to do, and then hit save. So there's a lot of information that can be entered on an office visit. It does not mean you have to enter every single block. Some blocks might not apply to the reason that the student was there at the office visit. But whatever you enter in here can absolutely be pulled into a report in its entirety through our enterprise reports. Contact log is where if you want to keep up with any kind of information where you contact a parent at. So if I want to elaborate on that contact log from that office visit, I can put, you know, what time they came in, what time they came out, what kind of group, who contacted, why, anything that you needed to. You can absolutely enter all that information here and kind of use that as a notes area of why you are contacting parents if you want to. All of this is controlled by that security, so not everybody will be able to see this type of contact log if you want to keep medical information in here that you don't want others people to be able to lay eyes on inside of there. And last but not least, we have PE waivers that if you needed to enter in a PE waiver just for someone to see, you could add that inside of there to say maybe they're excused by some reason because they are on, crutches because they broke an ankle or something like that, sprained an ankle, and you wanted them to be excused from PE. That can be added. Now, the other piece that I wanted to show on this is this health dashboard right here. Again, this is a plugin that if your district has installed it for you, it's out in PowerSource. It brings all of those pages of health information to you so that you can see it all on one screen. So if you needed to do an overall health assessment of the student, you see any screenings, any contacts, anything that you have entered. Jason Springle is the one who developed this out in PowerSource. And if you did not know, you can rearrange this page. So if you're like, nope, I want to put office visits at the top, you can, oh, it won't let you do that one, but it will let you move these around. So if I wanted to put PE waivers, physicals, I want to move these over here. You can move things, well, you're supposed to be able to move them left and right and up and down on this page if you want to see them in a different order from how they have done before. You also can do a direct jump to a page. So if I'm looking at health concerns and I need to go update something on health concerns, I can click that and it will take me to that page for that student. But it just gives you a nice overview if you've never seen that before. Now, that's all on the individual student record. What most people do is they live off of this daily to-do list, which is going to give you anything that you've done. So if you have things scheduled, when you come in here each day, it's going to start you out with everything that is just scheduled off of that monitoring and medication event. So I've got all these meds I've got to give. I've got all this monitoring that I've got to do. As you go in and do other things to students, like if where I added the scoliosis screenings to all those students, it's going to show all of that in there because it's like your work log for the day. It's going to show you everything that's coming up for you to do and anything that you have done that you have already charted. So it will show you any screenings you have charted. It will show you all of the other information that you've put inside of here. So just kind of keep that in mind, and that becomes your running daily list. You can go and adjust these. So if I need to look at, what was I supposed to have done 2 weeks ago on the 14th? I can take a look and it will adjust and show me all of my information for students that I had on the 14th. Do know that it defaults to students who are currently enrolled. So if you ever needed to get back to a student who is withdrawn, you can always uncheck that box, hit apply, and it will show you your withdrawn students in there as well if you ever needed to get back to their records to finish up a charting or to pull out some kind of information for a charting. On the daily help to-do list, you can see this Find Me feature, which will tell you at this moment in time at 2:41 where this student might be found at in case it's time for them to have a monitoring and they've not shown up. You can go and find them. There is also this chair, which will show you any attendance that has been entered. So I see that Mickey is actually in ISS today. If they had been marked absent, you would see that they are marked absent so that you wouldn't expect them, and you could go in into maybe the medication and mark that the student was absent from that point in time. Another thing that is a really cool feature when you're on a student record, there is a plugin called Quick Contacts. So maybe I'm in the middle of charting an office visit on a student, and in the middle of that charting, or I'm fixing to go chart, I needed to call the parent. This Quick Contacts is a view that pulls the contacts page overlay so that you can pick up the phone, call the parent at those numbers, have the conversation, and then go in. If you don't have a little icon, it looks like three little people kind of grouped together up here in the top. It's called Quick Contacts. That's a plugin that is located out in PowerSource that I know a lot of nurses really love having. Ask your PowerSchool sysadmin at district office to install that one for you because it'll overlay those contacts on top of any page that you're on here. So you don't have to leave this screen to go to the contact screen. It just, any little thing that I can get y'all having to do less button clicks, I really try to do and find for y'all. And that's one that's been a real game changer for our nurses out there, because y'all constantly are having to contact parents for one thing or another. Let's see if I've gone over everything. We've talked about the daily log, how it writes back to the daily log, how you can use the daily log to write, and vice versa from a student record. The last thing that I want to show you are all of the reports that we have built for each one of these features that we have talked about today. So if you go to data and reporting, reports and go to enterprise reports. This is another area of reporting that are all controlled through security functionality. And guys, we have built about 150 different enterprise reports over all kind of different topics. But there is a section called health that can be assigned through role permissions to people who you just want to see have access to these. We basically took, and when we say we, I mean Scott Booth, who is my developer here at the state, who is phenomenal at writing enterprise reports. We took all of those parts of health, from medication, the usage, the inventory, health plans, every individual type of screening, office visits, concerns, and we have built reports for every one of those. So if I wanted a very comprehensive report of all of my different office visits, at the end of the school year, I can go and pick the school year, and I don't have much data in mind, y'all, but I would be able to see all of this information on there. Many of these reports, if you go to the actions and the select columns, you'll see we have put every possible column of data here for you to pull in the report, so you can make this report have whatever columns of data you want. So if you literally wanted all of the information, I could either click on these. If you hit control, you can click more than one, and I can hit this one arrow to move just those over, or I could literally click that arrow and move every one of them over, hit apply, and now I have a comprehensive office visit report. I know there are times where DHR will contact y'all and say, I need you to print a list of every office visit for this student. Or maybe a doctor's physician will call you and say, I need you to print every single instance of that diabetic or tube feeding monitoring. You can come in here and filter for whatever student you are looking for and be able to print through these download features these out as PDFs. So you can do that as that, or a spreadsheet to get this information for them. Other things that you can do, anytime you see this primary report in the center, you can usually find other versions of the report. There are some, like for example, let me move out of office visits. Let's go to the health concerns. Sometimes we build additional views of the reports in for you. Like here is a list of all of your health concerns across your school. Well, what if somebody wanted to know numbers? Here, we've also given you a chart. So if your principal's wanting to know, what are all of your different health concerns that you have on your students, this will count those numbers for you. So it gives you a nice printable chart that you might need to go to the principal about and go, hey, did you realize that we have this many health concerns that we're having to work with within the school? Notice I can zoom in and out of those charts to make those bigger or smaller. Different counts of conditions. If you've never played around with these enterprise reports, you can't break them. If you get them filtered some type of way and you need to undo them, just go back out and come back in. But don't be afraid to click these buttons and see what all we have given you inside of these reports. How many of y'all are familiar with that ABN survey that you have to do at the end of the year? Okay, we've built that survey out for you that will give you all of those. Oh, and it tells you have to run. Some of these you have to run at district office level. Some of them you have to run at the school level. So you'll just want to be at district office. It will give you those visit type counts so that you can do your reporting to Dr. Marshall each year. The medication usage report. This is a pretty cool one. If I pick the year, and let's say I do it from, it will actually give you a graph of every single day of whatever date range you pick and how many meds you have administered throughout the day. It's a pretty cool one to see how often y'all are actually given medications, and sometimes people don't realize that. Anytime you see these bars, it means there's extra information. So you could go through and literally, I'm looking at every piece of administrative information, including a lot of these reports. We pull in the demographic information in case you needed a report to print out for some reason or do some type of grant where y'all are trying to write a grant for people who've been in for certain reasons and whatnot. Inventory by student, so I can see by student what my inventory is. I can tell you when it's been updated, who updated, what's been done. Lots of information in all of these different reports. Definitely take some time to go through them. I can look at medical alerts. I can look at health details. I can look at contact log. If I want to look at, let's just say, the diabetic monitoring month by month, I can see all of my information on my students. So here's where I can see the diabetic monitoring I did on Luke just a little while ago. So just lots and lots of reports that give you way more information than the reports over in the system reports that I know so many of y'all are using and love. But this just it gives you everything. And if there's ever a report that you would like to have, please let me know. Send me an email because Scott builds these reports out based on what y'all need in the districts. We don't want y'all to have to spend time on creating any kind of report. If there's something you would like to see, we can pull it in enterprise reports and create it for you. And then y'all should see on those Monday newsletters that I send out anytime a new report has been created that you would need to get your district person to install for you. And I know y'all have probably put 1,000 messages in chat, but for some reason WebEx froze it at 1:59. So I've gone through, I believe, every piece. This is recorded, so when we finish the webinar, I will get the recording placed on YouTube and I'll email it out to everyone. That way y'all can use this year to year to help train new people. You can watch it back. You can pull your nurses in, watch it together, and kind of go through all of the different parts and pieces. And if y'all have any questions on anything or want any other kind of specific training, please let me know. And I'm happy to have these webinars at any time. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording so it can start rendering. WebEx just does not like, let's see. It's showing me as the presenter, but it's not. All right, let me, y'all, I'm going to go out of WebEx and come back in. So y'all just stay there 1 second. I will be right back to see if it'll let me fix this meeting. Hold tight. Leave meeting. I was muted the whole time, wasn't I, y'all? Sorry about that. WebEx just does not like me. All right, so let me go back. I was answering the question about how can you have people go in there that don't have a section assigned to them for healthcare plans? And what I was saying is there's a way to go in and manually add someone as being read, but if they're not attached to a section for the student, there's no way the program knows that they're tied to them to display it to them as a teacher. So you either one have to print it out for them and then just manually enter a read receipt or keep it somewhere that you know, or they would have to have admin access, which most of those teachers are not going to. That's what I was showing just a second ago. Allison had asked, could spray be listed as a unit? If you will send that to Dr. Marshall, she is the one that again controls that code set list. So when it comes to medications, these are the different units we have. So if spray needs to be in here, just kind of like how we added puff for the inhalers, then you just need to run that by her. And if she approves it, it can be added in and be part of that drop down. Jody, I've been doing pill as a unit and then putting like 10 milligram for the actual pill, then the inventory doing the pill numbers I have in the bottle. Is that okay? If your inventory is still coming out right, it could, but usually when you put it in as one pill and say you have 10 pills, if you do the milligram, it's counting 10 off of 10, which is going to take all the pills out. Your inventory could possibly be off if you're doing it that way. You typically want them to be that same measurement so that it's doing the subtraction on the inventory correctly for you. Now, if it's doing the translation and y'all are seeing that, then absolutely keep on rocking with that. Yes, on health concerns, when you are entering in health concerns on a student, the other can only be listed once. So if you have multiple things you need listed under the other, you just kind of have to add them all under that. So because I've already got the other right here, I would have to edit and I would just add, if I also need, XYZ added in there, you just kind of have to list it as a comment so that you would know what that other is. Is it possible to have destroyed or wasted option in inventory? Yeah, absolutely. Ask that to Dr. Marshall, and if she approves it, we can add any of that inside of here. Yeah, that's when I asked y'all what y'all thought expiration meant. Prescribed dose should be what you are administering. You are not administering 500 milligrams. No, that would be on inventory as what you have brought into it. Correct. Anything that you want to get added under any of those drop downs need to be emailed to Dr. Marshall. So if you want finger stick or CGM, yes, see that to Dr. Marshall, and all of these code sets here can have things added to them. Yes, we will record this and I will send this out. I do not have a drop down list. Got it. Okay. Oh, and that's when y'all were trying to tell me my sound is gone. Okay, I think I got through all of the other chats. How can you delete old health concerns? You want to end date them. I don't know that you want to delete things out because you probably want to keep record of it. So if you have an old one from, like this one, 2022, that doesn't need to be there anymore, you're going to want to edit it and put an end date on it. So let's say that I ended this, yesterday. If I end date it and it's on a past date, it'll move it up here to the archived and take it off of your list. So I wouldn't delete, but I would probably archive it to show that that was there at one point in time. Where do you find the video for the teacher? On our Alabama PowerSchool website, which if you just literally Google Alabama PowerSchool, it will bring up our site right here that is a Google site. It is on our help page. And it's this video right here. And again, I give you one on how personnel such as counselors and principals can view and acknowledge health plans. I've got one on here on how to mass assign the screenings and the physicals that we went through at the beginning, running the different health enterprise reports. And this is an overview of all the health security settings that I did back when we first started PowerSchool. It's still in the old UI, but it's there. I'm going to add this video recording to this page right here. Just know we have that little drop where I went out and had to kind of get back through, so it's going to be some weird video. But I'll add it on here so that you'll be able to find it, and I will email it out to everyone once I get it inside of YouTube. Luanda, where is the archive tab? So it's not really called archive, but you see this up here at the top where it says show all and it says +4. If you end date anything on any of these pages and it's past that date, it's going to put it up here. So if you want to see the old ones, just click that box and you'll see the ones that have those end dates that were hidden previously. That's kind of the archive. How did you add the teacher to the read receipt? Oh, so if I have, let's go to my health plan. Oh, Tanya, thank you. I hope y'all are finding this helpful. Did y'all learn anything that you didn't know about this program in just this big overview? And I know I've been talking for a while now, 2 hours. I knew that we wouldn't get this in an hour and a half. So let's say that I have my diabetic plan right here, and I've got a parapro who's in one of the classes, but she's not attached to the schedule anyway, and I need to know that she's acknowledged the plan, so I took her a paper copy of it. I can come up here and I can click add and do manual entries. So I would just add. So let's just say I went to Twin Collins and I gave her a copy of it and she read it and we went over it today. I can hit that and hit save, and it will add them to my list to say that I had the conversation. That way you have all your record keeping in one space for it. Totally up to y'all on whether you want to do that or not, but that just gives you that option inside of here. Yes, homeroom search is a great, I mean, I can't tell you how many people that I know who love that homeroom search just so they can grab all the kids at one time and not have to go search those different classes on them. So yeah, if you don't have that, definitely ask your people to get that installed for you. And if they don't know where it's at, feel free to have your sysadmins to email me and I'll show them the link in PowerSource of where it's at. Any other questions y'all have on any of it? I know we've talked about a lot today because y'all have one of the most comprehensive pieces in the overall product in there. Linda, this is off topic. Do you know what the DAT tag is for cohort? Linda, shoot me an email on that and I'll see if I can dig it up for you. I'm trying to remember if that's one. I think that's one that's in a child table and we'd have to have a Power Query for it. So if you'll shoot me an email, we'll get it configured for you. Perfect. All right, I'm going to do what I always like to do on these. Let me go ahead and stop the recording so it can start rendering.